Hi guys and welcome to Gadget Reviews, and to this Warhammer video are Space Marines asexual, or do Space Marines have any sexuality? I was very interested about this topic, so I started making my research. So I found this article here, confirmed in canon most Space Marines are asexual. So let's see what is written here. Warhammer 40k has never been very graphic in terms of sexual scenes. So basically here says, well, as you can see, but very rarely with Space Marines, except in the case of the Emperor's children who follow the Chaos God of Pleasure. Space Marines most do not feel the emotion of fear, and many fans have speculated that they do not feel sexual desire either. Yeah, so whatever I personally read so far, whenever the regular Space Marines are concerned, their sexual desires are completely subdued. Basically, they're just, it's just how they are. Their condition makes them so disciplined and so focused, and they are created solely for the purpose of serving the Emperor and whatever, the imperium needs. And that includes a lot of protecting, war, all of those things. So they are warriors true and true. So that's what I've read. Here, the interesting thing is that they quoted this part, which is from the exact books that I'm currently finishing, the 3 books by Aaron Demesky Bolden. Here it says, he barely notices them. Sexuality is a forgotten concept, alien to his mind. Merely one of 10,000 humanities his consciousness has discarded. Yeah, so I do remember this part of the book. I put up a poll in the community tab of the channel. Would you like to see me reviewing those 3 books? The Night Lord's Omnibus, basically. So yeah, let me know about that. So far, most of you guys do want me to review those 3 books. But what I remember for them is that, especially these legions, especially that legion of the Night Lords, although they're basically Chaos Marines, they do not follow Slanesh, they follow the gods in general, mostly Khorne, so to speak. So here's what it says here. The exception again would be the Emperor's children, which other fans have used as an example to urge that Space Marines are not asexual. Rule books describe the siege of Terra and the Emperor's children committed rape. One counterpoint to that argument would be that rape is a crime of cruelty and a desire to harm others rather than a sexual desire. Okay, yeah, but they still have to get aroused and, bring the airplane up to do anything, so that has to come from something. They can't be just like, oh yeah, my parts, yeah, they just work like rice, mighty. Imperial dick you. So I do think that yeah, they do have to have some kind of a sexual arousal. They cannot just bring it up by command and just F everything. I don't want to say a lot of words, guys. I'm sorry about this. I have to keep it clean for YouTube as much as possible. So let's continue here. Fans take the Emperor's children as proof of concept that Space Marines can be sexual beings, but other fans have pointed out that the Emperor's children aren't like any other Space Marines of Chaos Marines. For one thing, Chaos Gods often alter biologies of their worshippers or victims. Zinch, the Lord of Change, delights in mutating humans and Chaos Marines with extra eyes, limbs, and psychic abilities. It stands to reason that Slanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, altered the bodies of Slanesh worshippers to make them feel sexual desire. Yeah, as far as I read, that's correct. In addition to that, the Emperor's children have had their genetics manipulated by Fabius Billy, former apothecary of the Emperor's children. The specific point of these genetics manipulations were to enhance their feelings of pleasure. So basically, as I see it, Space Marines, when they're not Chaos Marines, they're technically so disciplined and so focused, as I said, that they just do not have the sexual urges at all in any kind of a way. That is just not awakened in them. But when they're Chaos Marines, depending on which god they're going towards, they're worshipping in general, they're honoring, so to speak, that's gonna determine if they have any sexual now openings in their minds and physiology, so to speak, if they have this urge. But other than that, I know that Space Marines are sterile. That's another point, that they cannot have children physically, but that doesn't mean that they cannot have, intercourse. So yeah. Okay, here there's a point that some Space Marines are not supposed to feel fear, but some do. So basically, it's pointed out that every Space Marine is an individual, no matter the fact that through the gene seed and how they're made in general, a lot of minuses in their characteristics would be extinguished, but they can still have some particular uniqueness to their personalities, of course, because they're still individuals. So even though they try to genetically take something from them, basically they still have a soul, and some part of their individuality has to be embedded in that soul, otherwise that would not make sense, that only through the genetic modifications they can be completely the same. That's just not how it goes. Okay, here's again this point as well, but the fact that not all Space Marines turned out the same could also be used to argue that Telos in Soul Hunter is a special case. Although the context implies his lack of sexual desire is due to his ascension to an Astartes, it didn't say that all of the other initiates turned out the same way. But still, considering the lack of even a hint that non-Slaneshi worshipping Space Marines feel sexual desire, the evidence seems pretty conclusive. Yeah, well, by my research as well. Now, let's look at some particular Dark Lord. That is a quote that I personally took from one of the books. And it's about that guy Ruven, that is one of the Chaos Dark Space Marines. So, blah blah blah, he entered the room, and it's about his attitude, basically, towards what he felt between Octavia and Septimus. Hound glanced blindly in the direction of Octavia and Septimus, which was the only cue the Night Lord needed. Oh, not mating desire. The smell is your biological attraction to one another. Your scents are histologically compatible, the Night Lord snorted. A beast sniffing an unpleasant scent from its senses. Another foul flaw of the human condition. When you do not stink of fear, you stink of lust. Octavia had narrowed her eyes at the beginning of his tirade. She had no idea who this was, but her value made her brave. I'm not human, she said, more cattily than she had intended. The warrior chuckled at that. In fact, the slave, staring at you with desire in his one remaining eye, would do well to remember Homo sapiens and Homo navigo were never meant to mix with any graceful genetic fusion. The balance of your pheromones is a curious one. I'm surprised you do not repel one another. Septimus didn't hide the ice in his voice. What do you want, Ruven? So, yeah, here my point is that this guy Ruven, which I read a bit about, he's a big ass. And yeah, he's basically, he is a Chaos Marine, but he is still expressing his, disgust towards the sexual desire or attraction that Septimus and Octavia share. So that means that although he is a Chaos Marine, he's not under Slanesh in any way, he's not tainted by that, he is still indifferent to any sexual desires. In fact, he thinks that they're pretty repulsing as far as we can tell, or at least he is like super, amused by that, like, watching animals play or something to him. So I do think from everything that I've read that particularly Slanesh Marines are definitely doing sexual things to the 10th degree and beyond that, but some of the others, at least from what I researched, do not care less about sexual experiences of any kind. There's another article that I read here in this site. Can Space Marines in Warhammer 40k have intercourse? Why or why not? And here is this answer here. The Adeptus Astartes are fully capable of carrying out the physical act of intercourse. Yeah, technically, yeah. I mean, even if they're sterile, they still have their organs, and if nobody touched that area, they should be able to do that if they have the hormones and the urges. I mean, that's just physically and mentally speaking. However, the biological drive to do so has been burnt out of them. Yeah, exactly what I meant. It is unknown whether this was something deliberately engineered by the god emperor, very plausible, or simply an unfortunate side effect of the long and complex process that transformed them from baseline humans to the emperor's angels of death. Thus, when Astartes might have the equipment to copulate, he has no real reason or desire to do so. This seems to hold true for both loyalist Space Marines as well as traitors. The only exception to this rule seems to be some members of the Slaneshi worshipping Imperius children. Slanesh is the chaos god of pleasure, excess, and decadence. As such, her followers tend to be a selfish, prideful, and lustful folk, to say the least. This applies to the mortal followers of Slanesh as well as the traitor marines that have fallen to her service. Indeed, even during the Horus Heresy, the Emperor's children broke off from the attack on the Imperial Palace because sieges are boring and slack their insatiable hunger for pleasure by slaughtering, mutilating, torturing the civilian population as well as indulging in other more baser pleasures. 10,000 years later, on Laxus Prime, Inquisitor Jack Drago witnessed a warband of the Emperor's children violating a group of women who had belonged to the local governor's harem with their organs of pleasure. Oh, Jesus. Through the genitalia of many of these vile traitors bore little resemblance to the standard human reproductive apparatus, with some of them even sporting warped tentacles and literal demons instead of sex organs. Okay, that is horrible, horrible, horrible. Okay, yes, I did have to mention that because why should I be the only one who has nightmares about this? Yeah, yeah. To sum up, the many atrocities committed by the Emperor's children prove beyond doubt that the Space Marines can indeed engage in carnal relations. Most of them just don't want to, except for the vile, fetting spawn of bloody Fulgrim who will F everything that moves and most things that don't. Oh my gosh. Captain, the loyalists have a titan. What shall we do? Well, first we do some warp dust, then we F that titan. A no Emperor's children captain. Wow. Whatever he meant, yeah. So basically, guys, to conclude, of course, feel free to interject here and to add something. So I'm looking forward to your comments. Normal Space Marines do not have any sexual desires whatsoever, just how they are. It's based on how they are created, and that automatically just removes any sexual desire because there's just no reason for that. And they do have to be disciplined and focused all the time. But Chaos Marines, they can go either way depending on which god they worship. So yeah, that's it. I was curious, I made the research, I decided to share that with you guys. And plus, they're so big that they do need some women to do that with, that are also big, otherwise that's just not gonna work. I don't want to think about it, but if it's proportionate, their parts are gonna be huge anyway, like a horse. Oh my gosh, okay, I don't want to think about that. Okay, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video about Space Marines. Are they asexual, basically? And let me know, of course, what you think in the comment. If you'd like to support me, you can check out the links down below to my OnlyFans, where I do my sexual educational content, actually, Patreon, and of course, you can become an honorable member of the channel by becoming Adeptus Astartes, Adeptus Custodes, or a freaking Primarch. And until next time with me, Gary G Reviews. Mwah.